5 years later, I saw my ex-wife at the parents' meeting. As the meeting began, the homeroom teacher walked onto the stage. At that moment, my breath hitched. It was the woman who abandoned me and our child 5 years ago. Murmurs filled the classroom, and my chest grew cold as her eyes darted around nervously. I had deliberately arrived an hour early, pushing aside all my company meetings. Today was my son's first parents' meeting for elementary school. I couldn't miss such an occasion. I sat in the third row, a seat by the window. I was surrounded by young mothers dressed to the nines. The air was thick with the scent of perfume and foundation, filled with hushed whispers. A tall man sandwiched among them looked out of place. Some people were secretly sizing me up. Others whispered, "Who's that? Why is it just a dad?" I didn't care. I had grown used to such gazes over the past 5 years. I massaged my temples, a hint of weariness emanating from me. For 5 years I had been alone, both father and mother, raising a wailing infant single-handedly, dragging a near-bankrupt company out of the mire. How many nights had I collapsed on the sofa from exhaustion, only to drag myself up to make formula for the baby? Only I knew that kind of loneliness and suffering. Now, seeing my son with his little school bag on his back, I felt it was all worth it. The noisy chatter in the classroom gradually subsided. A crisp sound of high heels interrupted everyone's whispers. I looked up. The woman, dressed in a light blue dress, slender, and holding a stack of papers, walked onto the stage. In that instant, my heart clenched. I couldn't be more familiar with her face. Wang Xin. The woman who abandoned me and our son 5 years ago and vanished from my world. Now, she was standing on the stage. Her identity was actually my son's homeroom teacher. It felt like I had been punched in the chest. The classroom was silent for a second, then erupted in low gasps. "Isn't that Zhao Minglu's mother? Didn't they say they were divorced a long time ago? Oh my, this is really interesting. Things are getting good." Whispers buzzed like ants in my ears. I sneered inwardly, but showed no emotion. Wang Xin looked up, her gaze meeting mine. She froze. Her whole body seemed petrified, her expression stiff. She almost dropped the papers in her hand and hurriedly gripped them tightly. Her face paled for a moment. Then, she quickly adjusted, forcing herself to speak calmly. "Hello, everyone. I am the homeroom teacher of this class. My surname is Wang." Her voice was clear and cold, but she couldn't hide the slight tremble. The parents in the classroom were all focused on the sparks between us. She pretended to explain the course arrangements and learning priorities as if nothing was wrong. But I didn't hear a word. I only had one thought in my mind: God is really joking. We hadn't seen each other in 5 years, and I thought we would never cross paths again. I never imagined that at the first parents' meeting, she would become the most dazzling person on the stage. I narrowed my eyes and looked at her. She seemed thinner than she was 5 years ago, and there was a little more weariness between her brows. But that cold and glamorous aura was still there. A sense of irony welled up inside me. Where had she been these past 5 years? Had she ever thought about how I had spent these past 5 years alone? The meeting finally ended. The parents left in twos and threes, talking as they went, occasionally looking back at me. Zhao Minglu rushed out of his seat and threw himself into Wang Xian's arms. "Mom." His voice was trembling, and his eyes were as bright as lit stars. At the classroom door, several parents were stunned. Is that really his mother? Then this drama is going to be good. Whispers rose again. My face turned cold. I strode forward and pulled my son out of her arms. He looked up in surprise. "Dad, I want to talk to Mom." I interrupted in a low voice. "She's not your mother anymore." The words cut through the air like a knife. Wang Xian looked up sharply, her eyes instantly reddening. "Did you?" Her voice trembled, wanting to explain. I gave her a cold glance. "Shut up." The classroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Wang Xian's tears welled up, but she forced herself not to let them fall. Her hands trembled slightly, as if wanting to reach out to her son, but then she pulled back. The parents around them stared at this tearing scene. Their expressions varied. Some were sympathetic. Some were watching the show. Some were gloating. But I only felt the anger in my chest surging. She left 5 years ago without saying goodbye. Now, why should she stand on the stage and use the identity of teacher to get close to my child? Zhao Minglu clutched the corner of my clothes with his little hand, tears welling up in his eyes. "Dad, I want to talk to Mom." I looked down at his innocent face. My heart ached. But the next second, my voice was still cold and hard. "Let's go." I picked up my son and left the classroom without looking back. Behind me, Wang Xian's soft sobs could be heard clearly. I didn't stop. My steps were firm and cold. Even if she regretted it, even if she wanted to come back. Sorry, 5 years ago, she personally severed everything that belonged to her. Today's parents' meeting is not a reunion. It's a new contest. I carried my son and quickly walked out of the classroom. My steps were heavy, as if stepping on the fire of anger in my chest. Zhao Minglu struggled, pushing me with his little hands. Dad, I want to talk to Mom. I didn't stop, my voice cold and hard. There is no such person. The corridor lights were bright and dazzling. I put my son down. He glared at me with red eyes, tears streaming down his face. She is my mom. The child's immature roar made my heart tremble. But I still gritted my teeth and retorted coldly, "You don't have a mom." He was stunned, big tears falling, his shoulders shaking as he cried. My heart felt like it was being cut with a knife, but I still didn't move. Suddenly, a burst of hurried footsteps came. Wang Xin chased after us. Her steps were flustered, and she even staggered in her high heels. Minglu. She rushed to her son's side, bent down, and hugged him in her arms. Zhao Minglu instantly choked up, tightly hugging her neck. Mom, I miss you so much. Wang Xin couldn't help but burst into tears, soaking the child's shoulder. My face was icy cold. The emotions churning in my chest almost caused me to lose control. Let him go. My voice was low, but with an unquestionable firmness. Wang Xin hugged him tighter, shaking her head. Diju, can't I just hold him for a moment? 5 years, I stepped forward and grabbed Zhao Minglu's arm. He's my son, not a toy you can just hug whenever you want. Wang Xin's body trembled. She protected the child tightly, looking at me with tearful eyes. He's also my son. Her voice choked, but it carried a stubbornness. Other parents were walking past, their steps faltering as they looked at us. Whispers started up again. What's going on? That's really Zhao Minglu's mother, but didn't she leave 5 years ago? This is going to be interesting. I frowned, staring at her. Do you even have the right to say that? Wang Xin's eyes were blurred with tears, her lips trembling. I had my reasons back then. I sneered. Reasons? Abandoning a baby in diapers and disappearing for 5 years? That's your reason. Her face turned pale instantly, her whole body stiffening. Zhao Minglu looked at us in panic, crying out, "Stop arguing. Don't argue." I took a deep breath, forcefully pulling my son away from her. The child cried, his hands clinging tightly to her sleeve, the fabric tearing with a rip sound. The situation became tense. Wang Xin finally let go, collapsing to the ground, tears streaming down her face. Minglu, Mommy was wrong. Mommy was really wrong. My son was crying, gasping for breath, wanting to turn back, but I forcibly picked him up and carried him away. I left behind a cold sentence. Wang Xin, you have no chance. Carrying my child, I strode away. Behind me, her cries were almost desperate. Diju? You can hate me, but don't take away my right to be a mother. My steps didn't falter. That voice was like a needle pricking my back, but I forced it down. Outside the school gates, I put my son down. His little face was red with crying. He was choking, unable to speak. Dad. He sobbed, gasping for air. Mommy, she really came back. I knelt down, cupping his face, my gaze firm. The day she left, she decided she had nothing to do with you. My son shook his head, crying heart-wrenchingly. No. I have a mommy. I do. My chest tightened, my breathing irregular. But I could only harden my heart. Minglu, remember, you only have me as family. His eyes were teary. He bit his lip, saying nothing. I took his hand and led him towards the car. As soon as we got into the car, my phone started vibrating. It was a message from the class's parent group chat. Someone sent, "Today's parent-teacher conference was really interesting. Turns out Zhao Minglu's mother is Teacher Wang." Then a bunch of replies followed. TSK, abandoning her child back then, now she's back as the homeroom teacher. How ironic. CEO Zhao is no simple man. He raised the child alone for 5 years and built his company into the top in the industry. Teacher Wang must be regretting it to death, right? Message after message, the phone screen lit up continuously. I glanced at it, sneered, and threw the phone on the passenger seat. The night outside the car window gradually darkened. Inside the car, there was only the sound of my child's quiet sobbing. I gripped the steering wheel, the veins on the back of my hand bulging. 5 years. I thought I was invulnerable, but today, her appearance easily tore open all my wounds. She wants to come back? In her dreams. The night was deep. I parked the car downstairs at the company. My son was already asleep in the back seat, his small body curled up in a ball. Traces of tears still lingered in the corners of his eyes, making my heart ache. I gently covered him with his coat, leaned back in my seat, and lit a cigarette. White smoke swirled in the small space, with a choking, bitter taste. Wang Xin's figure, like a curse, lingered in my mind. 5 years ago, she suddenly threw a divorce agreement in my face. That day, her eyes were as cold as knives. Zhao Dezhu, I've had enough. You're a mess. You can't even provide the most basic life. I want to live like a human, not suffer with you. Her voice still echoed in my ears. At that time, I was being crushed by the company's debt. The cash flow had broken, employees were resigning one after another, and suppliers were blocking the company entrance demanding payment. When I got home, I had to stay up all night taking care of Zhao Minglu, who was not even 1 year old. I thought that as husband and wife, we could overcome difficulties together. I never expected her to turn away resolutely. When she left, she didn't even look at the child. You take care of the child yourself, I don't have the energy. At that moment, my heart turned completely cold. I knelt on the ground, holding the child, unable to make a sound in despair. The rumors outside spread quickly. Zhao Dezhu is a poor ghost. Of course his woman doesn't want to suffer with him. Wang Xin has sharp eyes. She knew he couldn't hold on, so she left early. I gritted my teeth and persevered. During the day, I ran projects, and at night, I held my child while writing proposals. How many times at 3 in the morning, I fed him while editing contracts, my eyes red as if they were about to go blind. How many times did I stand on the balcony, wondering if I should just jump from here and end it all? But the baby in my arms crying for milk woke me up again and again. I told myself, I can't fall. For the sake of my child, I must live like a man. 5 years later, not only did I not fall, but I also turned the company into a rising dark horse in the industry, worth hundreds of millions, with business spanning the country. And that woman who said I couldn't do it and turned away. Today, she actually reappeared as a teacher.
Huh.
I took a hard puff of my cigarette, a burning pain in my lungs. But my heart ached even more. The child in the back seat turned over, mumbling, Mommy? My hand froze. The cigarette ash fell on my fingertips, burning painfully. I stared at the child's little face in the rearview mirror, a wave of bitterness washing over me. He had always wanted a mother. But when his mother chose to leave back then, did she ever think about today? I abruptly put out the cigarette, pushed open the car door, and cold wind rushed in. She must know. She has no right. The next day, at the company's routine meeting, after the assistant reported the latest progress, my mind wandered. CEO Zhao, there's a charity donation by the Education Bureau next week. Would you like to go, personally? I came back to my senses and said faintly, schedule it. Education? Thinking of this, the corners of my mouth curved into a cold smile. What a coincidence. Isn't Wang Xin an elementary school teacher? Since she dares to come back, I'll let her know what a real difference is. After the meeting, I returned to my office, the sunlight outside the floor-to-ceiling windows dazzling. I turned on my computer and opened the news feed. On the list of outstanding teachers in the education field, there was a name, Wang Xin. In the photo, she was wearing a formal suit, smiling gently, holding a stack of award certificates in her hands. The comment section was filled with praise. Teacher Wang is young and promising. Dedicated to teaching, students love her. A truly rare good teacher. I snorted coldly, but a sense of ridicule rose in my heart. She's a good teacher, but she's a terrible mother. After leaving that year, where exactly did she go? I didn't know, and I didn't care to know. The only thing clear was that she had completely betrayed this family. That night, I received a phone call. It was from the head teacher of the parent group in school, Wang Xin. I originally wanted to hang up, but looking at the note that said Minglu's head teacher, I still answered. Zhao Dezhu. On the other end of the phone, her voice was low and hoarse, filled with caution. Can we talk? About Minglu. I was silent. She swallowed and continued. The child needs a mother. I interrupted coldly. What he needs is a responsible mother. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Then came her stifled sobs. I know I was wrong. Dezhu, give me one chance. I narrowed my eyes, my tone icy. 5 years ago, you left whenever you wanted. Now you want to come back whenever you want? What do you think this is? I raised Minglu alone. You have no right. I hung up the phone directly. In the office, only the sound of the wind howling outside the window could be heard. But in my chest, a raging fire was churning, impossible to quell. Memories flooded back like a tide, pressing down on me until I could barely breathe. Wang Xin. I will settle this debt one by one. The next morning, I took Minglu to school. As soon as the car stopped at the school gate, the child couldn't wait to unbuckle his seatbelt. Dad, I want to walk in by myself. He had his little backpack on, and his eyes were bright. I nodded and straightened his collar. Go on, remember to be good. Minglu ran towards the school gate, then suddenly stopped. He looked ahead and called out, Mommy? I frowned. Following his gaze, I saw Wang Xin standing at the school gate. She was wearing a light gray long dress, holding a teaching plan in her hand. Hearing the child call her, she was clearly stunned for a moment. Then, she smiled and opened her arms. Minglu ran over and plunged into her arms. That scene pierced my eyes like needles. I got out of the car and walked over. Teacher Wang. My voice was ice cold. She smiled stiffly, released the child, and turned to look at me. Zhao Dezhu, I just wanted to see Minglu in. I sneered. Are you his mother? Or his teacher? Some parents nearby cast curious glances. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly, but she managed to maintain her composure. I'm a teacher, but I'm also, I interrupted her. You can be a teacher, but don't forget, you already lost the qualifications to be a mother. The air suddenly froze. Wang Xian bit her lip, her eyes reddening. The child was caught between us, his eyes flustered. Dad. Mommy, please don't argue. I took a deep breath and put my hand on the child's shoulder. Go to class. Minglu looked at Wang Xian timidly before lowering his head and entering the school gate. Wang Xian reached out to touch the child's head, but I blocked her. Wang Xian, stop trying to claim the mother identity. You're just a teacher now. After I said that, I turned and left. Her figure remained stiff on the spot, her fingertips trembling. In the afternoon, Wang Xian sent a notice in the parent group. Dear parents, the children have just started school, and we need cooperation between home and school. In order to better understand everyone's thoughts, there will be a video parent conference tonight at 8 o'clock. The group immediately became lively. Teacher Wang is so responsible. Indeed, much more considerate than the previous teacher. I glanced at it coldly. Without replying, at 8 o'clock that night, the video conference began. Parent avatars lit up on the screen one by one. Wang Xian appeared in the camera, her voice gentle. Thank you all for your support. I know you have questions for me, but please believe me, I will wholeheartedly teach your children well. A parent immediately praised, Teacher Wang, you're working hard, we're very reassured. Someone teased, I heard Teacher Wang is also Zhao Minglu's biological mother? That's even better. There was a burst of laughter on the screen. Wang Xian looked embarrassed and pursed her lips tightly. I snorted coldly and clicked on the microphone. Teacher Wang. My voice instantly silenced all the laughter. You're a teacher, just your job well. As for other identities, don't mention them. The air was silent for a moment. Wang Xian's face paled, and she wanted to explain. Dezhu, I just wanted to, I interrupted again. The parent group is for the children, not for you to whitewash yourself. A few words, pinning her down in public. The group was quiet for a moment, then someone echoed. Right, we should separate public and private matters. A teacher is just a teacher, don't involve too much. Tears flickered in Wang Xian's eyes, but she stubbornly continued the meeting. I leaned back in my chair, watching coldly. At that moment, I felt a ruthless sense of satisfaction. She abandoned me and our son 5 years ago, and now she wants to come back? I will make sure she can't lift her head in the place she cares about most. After the meeting, I received her phone call. Dezhu, do you have to be so aggressive? Her voice was tearful. I sneered. You left so decisively back then. Don't blame me for being ruthless now. I admit I was wrong. Her voice trembled. But the child is innocent. Innocent. I scoffed. Where were you 5 years ago when he cried for his mother in the middle of the night? The other end of the phone went silent. I heard her low sobs. I will prove it to you. She hung up the phone, her voice filled with stubbornness. I put down the phone, my brow furrowed. Prove? What else can she use to prove it? The next day after school, I went to pick up the child. From afar, I saw Wang Xian squatting at the school gate, patiently helping each child organize their school bags, her smile gentle. Several parents were surrounding her, their tone filled with praise. Teacher Wang is so considerate. It's rare to see such a good teacher nowadays. Minglu ran out and threw himself into her arms. Mommy. The surrounding parents saw this scene and cast ambiguous glances. I'm so envious. The child has such a beautiful mother. That's right, Mr. Zhao is lucky. I took a step forward and coldly pulled my son away. Teacher Wang, mind your distance. The laughter around immediately froze. Wang Xian was stunned, her lips turning white. I'm just concerned about the students. I stared at her, my tone cold and stern. The students have a teacher. The child has a father. He doesn't need anything else. The scene froze again. Wang Xian's eyes flickered, but she didn't argue anymore. She bit her lip, tears welling up in her eyes, and I took my son and turned to leave. My chest felt cold and hard, but there was a faint surge of complexity. Does she really think that she can rely on a few kind words to come back to us? Impossible. At night, the child was lying in bed. His small body tossed and turned in the blanket. Dad. He suddenly said that. I looked up and saw his eyes sparkling. Mommy told me a story today. His voice was filled with excitement. She said she can tell me stories every day from now on. My heart tightened, my face darkened. Minglu, I said softly. Don't have too much hope. The child was stunned, and his little hands tightly grasped the corner of the blanket. But I really want a mother. My throat choked up, and I couldn't speak for a long time. The wind outside the window blew the curtains, making a rustling sound. I closed my eyes, and a splitting pain engulfed my heart. The next morning, I hadn't yet recovered from the emotions of the previous night when I received a call from my assistant. President Zhao, you must personally attend the Education Fund donation event at 3 p.m. It's a key project for the city, and the news media will be there. I rubbed my brow and replied in a low voice, understood. After hanging up, I looked at the coffee on my desk, feeling a sense of annoyance. These past few years, I've been working like crazy to get the company established in the industry. Now that we've finally become a rising star, I never expected to run into Wang Xin at every turn. At 3 p.m., I arrived at the venue on time. It was an event hosted by the Municipal Education Bureau, themed Caring for the Future. I was representing the company to donate an education fund as a way to expand the company's influence. The venue was brightly lit, and the reporters had already set up their cameras. The host greeted me warmly, saying, President Zhao, this way please, you're a very important person today. I nodded faintly, but my mind wasn't on the occasion. Until the host introduced the next guest, my brow furrowed sharply. Next, please welcome our city's outstanding teacher representative, Teacher Wang Xin. Applause erupted. A familiar figure walked onto the stage. She was wearing a dark blue professional skirt, her hair was pulled up, and she exuded a dignified air. She held a speech in her hand, with a faint smile on her face. I clenched the pen in my hand, my knuckles turning white. How can I run into her everywhere I go? Below the stage, reporters raised their cameras one after another, taking pictures of her. I didn't expect that this is teacher Wang Xin. She has such a good temperament. No wonder the parents in the WeChat group are all praising her. Whispers reached my ears, piercing my heart. Wang Xin stood on the stage, her voice clear. Education is a long-term plan, and every child deserves to be treated with care. I am willing to do everything I can to support them. Thunderous applause followed. Below the stage, someone sighed. She really is a good teacher. I sneered inwardly, with only 2 words in my mind. Hypocritical. When it was my turn to go on stage, I adjusted my expression and put on a social smile. Our company is willing to do its part for the cause of education, so that children can have a better future. I spoke with force and confidence, drawing cheers from the crowd. The host seized the opportunity and said, President Zhao, it's truly fate that you and teacher Wang Xin are both here today. Could we possibly ask the 2 of you to take a group photo as a memento? As soon as the words fell, all eyes turned to us. The reporters raised their cameras, and the flashes went off. Wang Xin was stunned, her expression complex. She looked at me, with hesitation in her eyes. But I smiled faintly, my voice cold and sharp. I'm sorry, I'm not accustomed to taking pictures with irrelevant people. As soon as the words fell, the whole place was silent. The reporters looked at each other, and the atmosphere was extremely awkward. Wang Xin's face was pale, her lips trembling, but she forcefully suppressed her emotions. The host forced a laugh and tried to smooth things over. It's okay, we understand, President Zhao. The reporters whispered to each other. What's the relationship between these 2? It seems like they don't get along. I looked at Wang Xin, my eyes sharp. She wanted to save face, but I was determined to shatter it in public. After the event ended, I turned to leave. Wang Xin chased after me and stopped in front of me. Do you have to humiliate me like this in public? Her voice trembled, her eyes reddened. I snorted coldly. Isn't face what you abandoned back then? What are you pretending to care about now? She bit her lip, her fingertips turning white. I just wanted to prove that I'm not the kind of person you think I am. Prove. I took a step closer, my eyes cold. 5 years ago, when you gambled with our child in marriage, did you ever think about today? Tears finally welled up in her eyes, and she said in a low voice, I regret it. My heart was shaken, but I quickly suppressed it. Regret? It's too late. I turned and left, leaving her standing there alone. That night, the news reports quickly spread. Well-known local entrepreneur Zhao Dezhu generously donates 10 million education fund. Outstanding teacher representative Wang Xin, stunning temperament, attracts the attention of the whole audience. The accompanying picture showed my stern profile and her gentle smile in sharp contrast. The comment section was even more lively. President Zhao and teacher Wang are in the same frame. What a perfect match. Do they know each other? I heard that teacher Wang is President Zhao's ex-wife. Rumors spread like wildfire. My assistant called anxiously. President Zhao, should we handle the PR? I uttered 2 words faintly. No need. These discussions are not important to me. What's important is that the more Wang Xian wants to squeeze into my world, the more I want to make her understand that she is not qualified. Late at night, I sat alone in the office, staring blankly at the news. In the photo, Wang Xian smiled brightly on the stage. I suddenly remembered that 5 years ago, she also smiled like this and said to me, Diju, you have to work hard. Our future depends on you. But in the blink of an eye, she turned around and left. I closed my eyes, feeling a tearing pain in my heart. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from the class group. Wang Xian posted a picture. The children were playing on the playground, and Minglu was grinning happily. She captioned it. Thank you for the support of the parents. I will protect the children's smiles. The group was filled with likes. I stared at the screen, my fingertips tightening. Protect? What qualifications does she have to talk about protecting? The person who has truly protected Minglu has always been me. The night was late. I stared at the class group on my phone, my heart churning with agitation. Minglu in the photo was smiling so brightly. But I knew clearly that all this had nothing to do with Wang Xian. I slammed the phone on the desk, saying coldly in my heart, she has no qualifications. The next morning, I sent Minglu to school. As soon as I arrived at the gate, I saw a familiar figure. Wang Xian was wearing a beige trench coat, squatting down, helping the children organize their school bags. The morning light shone on her face, gentle and quiet. Many parents stopped, looking at her with admiration in their eyes. Teacher Wang is really dedicated. Yes, she's especially patient with the children. I walked forward coldly, holding Minglu's hand. Let's go, you'll be late for class. But Minglu turned his head and whispered, Mom? That word tightened my heart. Wang Xian raised her head, a flash of wetness in her eyes. Minglu, be obedient today. I impatiently dragged the child inside. He doesn't need your instructions. Behind me came her low sigh. During lunch break, I received a call from the school. Mr. Zhao, Minglu is feeling a little unwell today. Can you come over? I immediately put down my work and rushed over. Just entering the classroom, I saw Wang Xian holding the child, looking anxious. He has a slight fever. I've already contacted the medical office. My heart tightened, and I reached out to take my son. The child's forehead was frighteningly hot, his little face pale. Minglu, Dad's here. Don't be afraid. He groggily opened his eyes and muttered, Mom, don't go. My chest felt like it had been stabbed with a knife. Wang Xian's eyes instantly reddened. Let me go to the hospital with you. I coldly refused. No need. She bit her lip and said nothing more. After the hospital examination, the doctor said it was just a common cold and that a few days of 4 fluids and rest would be enough. I sat by the hospital bed with my child, my heart heavy. Suddenly, the door was gently pushed open. Wang Xian walked in carrying a bowl of porridge. The child must be hungry. I made this. I frowned. I told you, I don't need you. But Minglu's eyes lit up, and he weakly called out, Mom. He reached out his little hand and firmly grabbed her sleeve. In that instant, the hardness in my heart almost shattered. Wang Xian carefully fed the child the porridge, her movements gentle. The child ate sweetly, even showing a long-lost smile. Watching this scene, I was silent, but the coldness in my heart remained. A few days later, Minglu recovered and went back to school. When school was out, I went to the school gate to pick him up, but I found that Wang Xian was already leading him out. She had even thoughtfully put a small hat on him, afraid he would catch another cold. The parents around looked on with envy. How happy, this family of 3. President Zhao is successful, teacher Wang is virtuous, and the child is well behaved. The rumors once again reached my ears, like needles pricking me. My face was cold, and I snatched my son. I don't need you meddling in the future. Wang Xian said softly. Diju? I just want to compensate Minglu. I sneered. Compensate? What can you compensate with? Can you make up for 5 years of absence? Her face was pale, tears welling up in her eyes. But she didn't back down. I'm willing to start from now, whether you believe it or not. I want to do it. My heart jolted, but I suppressed all my emotions. Whatever. In the days that followed, Wang Xian frequently appeared in our lives. In the morning, she waited at the school gate to tidy up Minglu's school uniform. In the evening, she called to ask about the child's studies. Sometimes, she would secretly bring the child small snacks. Minglu became more and more dependent on her. Dad, Mom told me a story. Dad, Mom said she would teach me how to draw. Dad, Mom said she would always be with me. Every word the child said was like a knife, stabbing into my heart. He yearned for his mother, and I couldn't deprive him of that yearning. But my reason told me, Wang Xin was not to be trusted. She came too suddenly, too easily. I must not be deceived by her appearance. On the weekend, the company had a small gathering. My colleagues cheered and said they should bring their families along. I had always been a loner, but this time, Minglu pestered me to bring his mother too. Dad, Mom said she's free. Can we go together? Just this once. His eyes were bright, full of anticipation. My heart sank heavily. In the end, I nodded in agreement. At the party, Wang Xin was wearing a light-colored long dress, sitting quietly to the side. Colleagues couldn't help but whisper, "Is that President Zhao's ex-wife? She has a great aura, no wonder." I pretended not to hear, but felt a fire burning inside. After a few drinks, I finally spoke in a cold voice. "Wang Xin, what do you want?" She paused and said softly, "I want to start over." I sneered. "Do you think this is acting? Leaving when you want, coming back when you want." Tears streamed down her face and she choked. "I know I was wrong, but I really want to make amends, even if it's just being Minglu's mother." The surroundings fell silent. I looked at her, a complex mix of emotions surging in my chest. She added in a low voice, "Diju, I regret it." I clenched my glass, my knuckles white, my heart aching faintly. Regret? Saying it after 5 years? Too late. But my heart had already begun to waver. Early Monday morning, just as I arrived at the company, I received a call from the homeroom teacher.
It was Wang Xin.
"Diju, Minglu got into a fight with another child at school. Can you come over?" Her voice was urgent and restrained. I frowned, my heart suddenly tightening. "Okay, I'll be right there." When I arrived at the school, Minglu was standing in the office with his head lowered. Several parents looked menacing. "Your son hit someone? He hits hard." "Yeah, he even said his dad would come and teach us a lesson." I narrowed my eyes and walked over to shield Minglu behind me. "Where are your children? Are they hurt?" A woman scoffed. "My son's face is all red. Look for yourself." I glanced over. The little boy did have a handprint on his face, but his eyes were shifty, clearly indicating he was the one who started the fight. "Minglu." I lowered my voice. "What happened?" The child bit his lip, his eyes wet. Wang Xin spoke up for him. The other children were calling him a child without a mother, so he got upset. Those words were like a knife, stabbing straight into my heart. I clenched my fist tightly, my knuckles white. Those parents were still yelling. Kids without mothers always have bad tempers. As soon as the words left their mouths, my face turned completely cold. "Shut up." I uttered the two words coldly, with a sharp aura. The office instantly fell silent. I stared at those parents, my eyes like knives. "Your children provoked first. Is my son wrong to defend himself? Your malicious words are the biggest mistake." They looked at each other, momentarily silenced. Just then, Wang Xin spoke. "Mr. Zhao, I will apologize with Minglu, and I will educate him well." I immediately turned my head and coldly interrupted. "You don't have the right to speak for my son." Her body stiffened, her face pale. Minglu suddenly looked up and said in a small voice, "Dad, don't be mean to Mom." That sound was like a heavy hammer hitting my heart. My heart trembled slightly, but I quickly suppressed it. "She's not your mom." My tone was cold and hard, with an unquestionable decisiveness. The child's eyes widened, and tears streamed down his face. "She is. She's my mom. Dad, why won't you forgive her?" The atmosphere in the office was extremely tense. Wang Xion's eyes were filled with tears, her voice trembling. "Diju, the child needs a complete family." "Complete." I sneered. "When you turned and left back then, didn't you think about that word?" She bit her lip, tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. "I was wrong. I admit, I was too selfish. I was afraid of hardship, afraid of exhaustion. But I've been regretting it all these years. I want to make amends." I stared at her, my gaze as cold as ice. "5 years ago, your choice sealed our fate." She choked back a sob, her shoulders trembling, but she didn't retreat. "Even if you never forgive me, I want to stay by Minglu's side. Then you should always fulfill your duty as a homeroom teacher." I spat out coldly. After saying that, I pulled the child away and left without looking back. Back in the car, Minglu was crying uncontrollably. "Dad, you're lying. You said you wouldn't let me be without a mom." My heart clenched fiercely, my throat tightened, but I couldn't say a word. I could only hold him tightly, my fingertips trembling. Outside the car window, Wang Xian chased after us, standing in the distance, tears streaming down her face. Her eyes held pain, pleading, and even more, determination. I glanced at her, started the engine, and drove straight away. At night, I lay in bed, unable to fall asleep for a long time. All I could hear were the child's cries of, "I want my mom." For 5 years, I thought I was invulnerable. But that scene shattered all my hardness. Wang Xin. Has she really changed? My heart was filled with conflicting emotions. I wanted to punish her severely, yet I couldn't help but waver. And all of this was just beginning. The next morning, I took Minglu to school, as usual. Wang Xin was already there at the school gate, smiling as she greeted the child. She was holding a lunchbox. Diju, this is lunch for Minglu. I glanced at her coldly. The school has a cafeteria. But Minglu's eyes lit up, and he jumped into her arms. Mommy made it. I want to eat what Mommy made. The child's smile made the words catch in my throat. In the end, I didn't refuse. In the afternoon, my assistant walked into my office, holding a newspaper. President Zhao, take a look. The headline read, Outstanding Teacher Wang Xin, voted Most Popular Teacher of the Year. In the photo, she was holding children, smiling gently. The comment section was full of praise. Teacher Wang is so dedicated. The children are so lucky. My heart skipped a beat. Her radiance seemed different from 5 years ago. But I quickly averted my gaze and ordered coldly, put this newspaper away. In the evening, I went to pick up the child. From a distance, I saw Wang Xin holding Minglu's hand, chatting and laughing. The child was holding a diary, looking excited. Dad, look. He flipped the diary to a page with crooked handwriting. I hope Mom and Dad get back together, so I can have a complete family. My heart lurched. My fingers trembled as I touched the line. Wang Xin stood beside me, her eyes red-rimmed. Diju, you see what the child's thinking. I gritted my teeth, my throat tight, unable to say a word. In the days that followed, Wang Xin began to appear frequently in my and Minglu's lives. In the morning, she would bring a hot breakfast. In the evening, she would help the child with his homework. Minglu gradually became dependent on her, insisting on holding her hand before entering the classroom. The surrounding parents watched and gossiped more and more. President Zhao and teacher Wang have patched things up? Now that's a happy family. It's so good for a child to have a mother. These words reached my ears, making my heart feel heavy. But looking at the child's radiant smile, I couldn't bring myself to refuse coldly. That night, I finished dealing with company affairs and leaned back in my chair, exhausted. On the table was a snack brought by an employee, saying that Wang Xin had sent it. I hesitated for a moment, but finally opened it and took a bite. The taste was familiar. It was the kind she used to make for me 5 years ago. In an instant, memories flooded back. Back then, she would bring a bowl of hot soup when I worked late. She would say softly, "It's okay, I'm here," when I was overwhelmed. Suddenly, a pang of soreness struck my heart. A few days later, the school organized a parent-child sports day. Parents and children gathered on the playground, the atmosphere lively. Minglu's little face was flushed, and he excitedly pulled me and Wang Xin. Let's participate together. At the child's request, I unusually didn't refuse. The three of us completed the parent-child relay race together. Minglu ran in front, and Wang Xin and I ran side by side behind him. The sun shone down, her breath mingling with mine, both strange and familiar. When the race ended, the child jumped into our arms and shouted, "We're the winners." At that moment, his smile was brighter than the sun. Below the stage, the other parents couldn't help but applaud. How enviable, such a happy family. My heart trembled slightly, and I didn't refute. That night at home, I stood on the balcony, smoking a cigarette. Suddenly, I had a violent cough, choking my chest with pain. My hand was stained red with blood from the cough, and I stared blankly. After a long time, I crumpled the tissue into a ball and threw it into the trash. I can't let anyone know, especially Minglu. I raised my head, looked at the night sky, and forced a smile. The child is finally smiling. It's all worth it. The next day, Wang Xin came to pick up the child. Minglu jumped into her arms, clamoring for her to make dinner. She turned to look at me, her eyes cautious and expectant. Did you together? I was silent for a moment, then finally nodded. At the dinner table, the light was soft. Minglu chattered about the funny things at school, and Wang Xin listened patiently. I unusually didn't interrupt. The atmosphere was warm, a warmth that had been missing for a long time. I looked at them, and a feeling of unspeakable warmth surged in my heart. But that warmth was quietly mixed with a hint of shadow. Only I knew. Wang Xin's appearance gradually became a daily routine. Every morning, she would bring breakfast and wait at the school gate. As soon as Minglu saw her, he would immediately smile and run over. I stood aside, watching the scene, and the coldness in my heart slowly smoothed out. The child's smile was the thing I couldn't bear to refuse the most in these years. A few weeks later, Wang Xin told me that she had rented a house near the school. This way, I can take care of Minglu at any time. She said it naturally, but with a hint of testing. I was silent for a long time and only replied faintly, "Whatever you want." A light flashed in her eyes, but she didn't say anything more. After work that evening, I went to the school to pick up the child. From a distance, I saw Wang Xian holding Minglu's hand, walking under the streetlights. The child was chattering, Wang Xian was responding patiently, and their laughter was crisp. When I walked over, the child immediately jumped into my arms. "Dad, Mom told me a story today. It was so good." I looked at Wang Xian, my gaze complex. She said softly, "He needs a complete childhood." I didn't answer, just took my child's hand, and the three of us walked under the streetlights, our shadows closely intertwined. At that moment, there was a long-lost warmth. On the weekend, the parent group organized a dinner. Someone joked, "President Zhao, Teacher Wang, how about you take a photo together? You look so perfect together." The table erupted in laughter, the atmosphere lively. I wanted to refuse coldly, but in my child's longing eyes, I reluctantly sat down. The camera shutter clicked. In the photo, I, Wang Xian and Minglu sat side by side, looking just like a family. The group instantly became lively. A match made in heaven. The child is so lucky. President Zhao, don't miss this opportunity. I lowered my head and drank, not responding. Wang Xian's cheeks flushed, but her gaze didn't waver. On the night the dinner ended, I returned home alone. As soon as I closed the door, a dull pain surged in my chest, and I couldn't stop coughing. Bright red blood spilled into my palm. I froze, staring at the color in my hand, my breathing rapid. After a long time, I forcibly suppressed it. In the bathroom mirror, my face was pale. I forced a smile at the mirror. I can't let them know. The next day, Wang Xian knocked on my door with food. "I made lunch for you." Minglu excitedly welcomed her in. The taste of the food was familiar yet foreign. I wanted to refuse, but the child had already started eating eagerly. Wang Xian sat across from us, quietly watching. At that moment, the long-lost warmth at the table made my heart tremble. The days passed, and Wang Xian became increasingly integrated. She would help the child with his homework and tidy up the house. Sometimes, she would even put Minglu to sleep for me when I came home late from work. Every time I pushed open the door and saw her figure accompanying the child under the light, a crack would appear in the thick wall in my heart. At school, the other parents' attitudes towards us also changed. "President Zhao, I really envy you. Your wife and child are so understanding." Someone said with a smile. I didn't bother to explain, just smiled faintly. Wang Xian stood beside me, her eyes slightly red, but her smile was particularly gentle. She understood that the words wife and child were just a misunderstanding, but she was willing to work for that misunderstanding. One evening, after finishing overtime at the company, I walked home alone. The night wind blew, and a stabbing pain came from my chest again. I endured it, not stopping. Under the street light on the corner, Wang Xian and Minglu were standing there. When the child saw me, he rushed over. "Dad, Mom said we should wait for you to come home together." At that moment, my throat tightened. I looked at them, and a tenderness I couldn't bear to part with arose in my heart. But at the same time, that hidden pain made me understand that this happiness might not last long. On the weekend, the school held an open house. I sat with a child in the classroom, and Wang Xian stood on the podium explaining. Her gaze kept falling on me, with a cautious expectation. After class, the child happily took our hands. "Mom and Dad, are you going to get back together?" The parents in the class laughed. Wang Xian blushed, but didn't deny it. I just patted the child's head and didn't say anything. My heart felt like it was being squeezed. That night, I coughed blood into the bathroom sink again. More and more blood was in my hand. I stared at that shocking color, my chest heavy. But I still told myself, I can't say it. At least, not now. The child just smiled. Wang Xian just came back. I couldn't bear to break this hard-won warmth, even if it was just an illusion. I wiped away the blood and walked back to the bedroom. Minglu was sleeping soundly. Wang Xian leaned against the bed, softly humming a lullaby. The light was soft, her silhouette gentle. I stood in the doorway, my throat tight. I sighed silently in my heart. If time could stop at this moment, how wonderful it would be. That day was Minglu's birthday. Early in the morning, he rushed to my bed, excitedly shouting, "Dad, it's my birthday today." I ruffled his hair, and a warmth welled up in my heart. For 5 years, this was the first time I hadn't turned down my child's birthday. Because this time, Wang Xian had started preparing a month in advance. She personally wrote the invitations and invited the child's classmates. She also contacted the cake shop and ordered Minglu's favorite cartoon cake. Even the house was redecorated, with colored lights wrapped around everything and balloons everywhere. At that moment, I stood in the doorway, looking at the warm decorations, and felt a kind of trance. It was just like how it was 5 years ago when she was still here. At the birthday party, the living room was lively. The children were chirping and singing around Minglu. Wang Xian walked out with a cake, her smile gentle. Come on, make a wish. Minglu closed his eyes, hands clasped together. I hope mom and dad can always be by my side. His voice was childish, but every word struck my heart. My heart ached, and I forced a smile, lighting the candles for him. The surrounding parents applauded. I'm so envious, President Zhao and Teacher Wang. You're really a family. The child is so lucky. I didn't refute it. Wang Xian stood beside me, her eyes red, but she smiled with unusual firmness. At that moment, I seemed to see her silently telling me, this time, I won't let go again. In the evening, the guests left, and the room became quiet. Minglu hugged his gifts and slept soundly. I leaned on the sofa, tired but somewhat satisfied. Wang Xian brought a cup of hot tea and said softly, thank you for being willing to give him a complete birthday today. I looked at her, silent. After a long time, I slowly opened my mouth. Actually, he's been waiting for you for these 5 years. Her tears welled up instantly, and she said in a trembling voice, I know, that's why I'm back. I won't leave again. The atmosphere was soft, and the air seemed to be filled with warmth. My heart trembled slightly, but I didn't refuse coldly again. I just gave a light She smiled, her smile tearful, but more firm than ever. The night deepened, and she rested in the guest room. I walked to the balcony and lit a cigarette alone. The wind blew, and the familiar dull pain came from my chest again. I couldn't help coughing, and the taste of blood quickly filled my throat. I covered my mouth, my palms stained a crimson red. The night scene in front of me began to blur. I leaned on the railing, breathing rapidly, and almost couldn't stand. After a long time, I slowly calmed down. I crumpled the tissue into a ball and threw it into the trash can. I raised my head and tried to calm myself. That crumpled tissue I put inside of the trash bin. I looked forward, trying to calm down. Because tomorrow, my child needs to see my smiling face. Because Wang Xian had just shown a long-lost smile. I don't want to break any of this. A few days later, the company had a banquet. As the organizer, I had to attend. Wang Xian came with Minglu, low-key, but appropriately dressed. Everyone there was surprised. President Zhao, your wife is truly virtuous. President Zhao's family is truly enviable. They didn't know that Wang Xian was just my ex-wife. I didn't explain, just smiled faintly. Wang Xian stayed by my side, naturally taking care of Minglu, helping me deflect drinks, and straightening my tie. In that instant, a kind of illusion rose in my heart, as if these 5 years had never been broken, and we were still a family. When the banquet ended, the assistant quietly reminded me, President Zhao, you don't look too good. I waved my hand, forcing a smile, and sent Wang Xian and the child home. When the night concealed everything, I went to the hospital alone. The hospital corridor, the cold white lights were dazzling. I sat on the bench, my palms full of sweat. The doctor finished reading the test report, his brows furrowed. Mr. Zhao, the situation is not optimistic. Cancer, late stage. In that instant, there was a roar in my ears, as if my whole being was emptied. I barely squeezed out a smile. Can it be cured? The doctor was silent for a moment, then slowly shook his head. At most 6 months to a year. I clenched my fist, my knuckles white. A dull pain surged in my chest. But on my face, I still maintained calm. Thank you. I stood up and walked out of the consulting room. The night wind rushed to my face, cold to the bone. But the corners of my mouth slowly curved into a smile. At least, they are very happy now. At least, the child had a complete birthday. At least, Wang Xian is back. As long as I hide all of this well, until the very last moment, they won't notice. When I got home, Wang Xian was already asleep. I gently pushed open the door to the child's room. Minglu was sleeping soundly, holding the toy car from his birthday party in his arms. I squatted down and gently tucked him in. The child muttered in his sleep. Dad and Mom together? My eyes heated up, almost collapsing. Forcing myself to steady my emotions, I whispered back, okay, Dad is here. As I turned to close the door, the tears could no longer be suppressed. They slipped down, scalding my heart. At this moment, I finally understood. So-called happiness is just an illusion. The hospital report, I locked it in the drawer of my office. That piece of paper was like a boulder, weighing heavily on my heart. But when I got home, I was still the same as usual, with a nonchalant smile on my face. Because I knew that once the truth was exposed, Wang Xian and Minglu's world would immediately collapse. I couldn't let them fall into despair prematurely. At least, not yet. During this time, I started working overtime frequently. On the surface, it was because the company was busy, but in reality, I was explaining various arrangements. The transfer of equity, the company's succession plan, the child's future education fund. I personally signed each document. Under the lights of the office late at night, my fingers trembled uncontrollably. But every signature, I was exceptionally firm, because I had to ensure that after I left, they could still live well. Wang Xin noticed the changes in me. She brought a bowl of hot soup into the study, frowning and asking, Diju, why are you always staying up so late lately? Your complexion is so bad. I looked up and smiled. The company is expanding a little busy. She stared at me, her eyes full of suspicion. But I didn't give her a chance to ask further and lowered my head to continue looking at the documents. She sighed, put down the soup, and said softly, Don't work too hard. As she turned to leave, I saw her back trembling slightly. My heart tightened, but I could only pretend to be cold and hard. At night, I coughed badly again. This time, the blood stained the entire handkerchief red. I hurriedly stuffed it into the drawer, afraid of being discovered. But the next morning, Wang Xin seemed to glimpse that blood-soaked piece of paper while cleaning up the trash. Her movements obviously paused. I immediately walked over, snatched it, and threw it into the trash can. Just a small cold, I said lightly, my tone unquestionable. She looked at me, a flash of panic in her eyes, but she didn't ask any further. That night, I took the initiative to help Ming Lu with his homework. As the child was writing, he suddenly looked up at me. Dad, are you sick? I was stunned. His little brows were furrowed. I heard you coughing at night. My throat tightened and I forced a smile. It's okay. Dad is just tired. He nodded as if understanding, but threw himself into my arms, saying in a childish voice, Then Dad needs to rest more in the future. Mom and I will take care of you. My heart was severely shocked, and I almost couldn't hold back my tears. I could only hold him tightly, my voice hoarse. Okay. A few days later, the company held a board meeting. I publicly announced that some of the equity would be transferred to a trust fund to ensure my son's future education and life. The meeting hall erupted in an uproar. President Zhao, why are you making such arrangements at such a young age? Someone asked doubtfully. I just smiled faintly. Preparedness averts peril. No one asked any further. But I knew in my heart that this step, I was paving the way for the future. Wang Xian's suspicion grew stronger. She began to pay attention to my every move. Once, she suddenly pushed open the door to the study. I didn't have time to hide the medicine box on the table. She froze, her eyes instantly solidified. Diju, what exactly is wrong with you? My face sank, and I put the medicine box away. Stomach medicine. She stared at me, obviously not believing it. Don't lie to me. I took a deep breath and turned my back to her. Wang Xian, I'm fine. My tone was cold and unquestionable. She stood there in place, tears silently slipping down, but she couldn't say a word. In the days that followed, she became more and more diligent. No matter how late I came home, she would be waiting for me under the light. No matter how many times I pushed her away, she still insisted with a smile. I knew in my heart that she must have noticed something, but she didn't expose it, just silently guarded me. This silence made my heart ache more than questioning. Late at night, I often stood alone on the balcony, lighting a cigarette. In the swirling smoke, I looked at the warm light in the room. Wang Xian was with a child, telling a story softly. The child was laughing, his voice clear and crisp, and I could only stand in the dark, coughing until my throat hurt. The tissue was stained with blood, but I gritted my teeth and kept my smile for the daytime. Because as long as they were still smiling, all of this was worth it. One day, Wang Xian suddenly grabbed my hand, her voice trembling. Diju, no matter what happens, I won't leave again. I was stunned, my heart suddenly tightening. Her tears fell drop by drop on the back of my hand, burning my heart. I reached out and gently wiped away her tears, but didn't say anything, because I knew that the truth would be revealed sooner or later. I just wanted to hold on a little longer to give them a little more complete time, even if it was just a dream destined to shatter. Late at night, I returned to the study alone and opened the drawer. The test report was lying there quietly. Under the light, the cold words pierced my eyes. I slowly closed my eyes and locked the report again. Then I looked up at the night sky outside the window. In my heart, I silently said, Give me a little more time, let them believe that we can really be complete. During that time, my health deteriorated rapidly. My nighttime coughs became more frequent, and I often felt dizzy during the day. But every time I was in front of them, I gritted my teeth and maintained a smile. Wang Xian, however, became increasingly perceptive. She stared at me, her eyes seeming to see through everything. Diju, is it really just a stomach problem? She asked countless times. And each time, I coldly rejected her. Don't overthink it. But her tears fell with each questioning. Finally, that night, I couldn't hold it in any longer. Returning home from a company dinner, my chest felt like it was being cut with a knife as soon as I walked through the door. A violent cough caused me to fall to my knees. Blood gurgled from the corner of my mouth. The briefcase in my hand fell to the ground, splashing with a glaring red. Did she? Wang Xin rushed over, her voice tearing. She helped me up, trembling all over. What exactly is wrong with you? I clutched the handkerchief tightly, trying to cover it up, but the bloodstains had already soaked through, leaving no place to hide. She froze, her eyes collapsing instantly. You're lying to me, aren't you? You're sick, aren't you? I turned my face away, my throat filled with a metallic sweetness. Just an old problem. Before the words could finish, another mouthful of blood gushed out. She couldn't hold back anymore. Her cries were heart-wrenching. The child was awakened, rubbing his eyes and running out. Daddy. The small figure rushed towards me, his eyes full of fear. Daddy, what's wrong? I struggled to support myself, holding the child in my arms. My voice was hoarse. It's okay. Daddy's just tired. But before I could finish speaking, another violent cough, blood splattered on the child's pajamas. The child froze, tears instantly falling. Daddy's lying. Daddy's lying. His cries were like a knife, stabbing into my heart. Wang Xin's tears blurred her vision. She grabbed me tightly. Did you tell me? What is the diagnosis? My lips trembled, wanting to continue to hide it. But in their desperate gaze, I finally closed my eyes and whispered the truth. Cancer, terminal. The air solidified instantly. Wang Xin was struck by lightning, her whole person stunned in place. Ming Lu cried, shaking my arm. No, Daddy's lying. Didn't the doctor say Mommy was cured? Daddy can be cured too. I reached out and stroked his head, tears finally welling up. Silly child. Daddy can't. The child shook his head desperately, crying hoarsely. No, I don't want to. His little hands desperately clutched my sleeves, his cries stabbing at my heart. Wang Xin collapsed to the ground, holding me, sobbing uncontrollably. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you bear it all alone? I smiled bitterly, my voice low and hoarse. Because I didn't want you to suffer this pain beforehand. Her tears flowed out crazily, almost suffocating her. You bastard. She beat my chest, crying until her whole body trembled. Do you know? I would rather bear it with you than find out at the last moment. My heart trembled, but I could only raise my hand and gently hug her. I'm sorry. That night, the living room lights were bright. Wang Xin held me, crying heart-wrenchingly. The child lay in my arms, crying himself to sleep. I looked at the ceiling, silent tears sliding down the corners of my eyes. This scene was the one I feared the most. It was also the ending I could never avoid. The next day, I was sent to the hospital. The test results were the same as before, cold and impersonal words. The doctor comforted me softly. Now we can only try our best to delay it. Wang Xin covered her mouth, crying until her voice was hoarse. She asked again and again. Is there any way? Even if there is only a glimmer of hope. The doctor shook his head. She collapsed completely. And I could only force a smile. Don't cry, I'm still here. These words were said with such understatement. But in my heart, I clearly understood time was running out. Outside the ward, Wang Xin leaned against the wall, tears streaming down her face. I just came back. How can you leave? Her voice trembled, almost unable to continue. I lay in the hospital bed, listening to these words, my heart aching as if it were breaking. But on my face, I was still smiling. Because I didn't want her to remember me in a state of collapse. I wanted to leave them with warmth, even if that warmth could only last until the last moment. Late at night, the ward was silent. I looked at the sleeping child beside the bed and reached out to gently stroke his hair. The small body was still sobbing in his sleep, muttering, Daddy, don't go. My nose tingled, almost collapsing. Looking up at the dark night sky outside the window, a low sentence spilled from my throat. I'm sorry. I really can't stay with you for too long.